Okay, abusuya be makwa ba sonko so ereba POG Media. So yere meko political highway so highway ne de ensem bebre wo so a yen so ya age pene se be me abadwafo no ehu de eko ene de eba abusuya yen bonra yensem John Dramani Mahama ne Ministries no wa drop full list na abusuya eye 30 ministries no what to say who I no 23 President John Dramani Mahama has by executive instrument reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23. Below is a list of the ministries established by him. Minister of Finance, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense. Abusuya edos we be 23 no. Ya full list na ba bontin abusuya. Mo yanko na yanko ti insema ekosna sa na ebeko no. Owo ensem can be afashe your comment section ni mu like na share ma afofro so ensa into me enka bi aha POG Media. So political trending stories are make waves no. Yen so ya dia atum se ere bebremo. Medam ase.
Now, in our first story, Ghana will have 20 ministries, a reduction from the previous 30. At least 7 ministries will no longer exist, but new ministries have also been created. President John Dramani Mahama, in an executive instrument issued on January 9, 2025, indicates the decision to reduce the numbers as he hopes to meet his campaign pledge of having just 60 ministers of states. Let's walk you through key changes in the ministerial setup, and we're going to go to a magic wall now. We'll first look at the number of ministries being 23 now, as opposed to the 30 ministries that were created by the previous government, and so we are looking at a reduction from 30 all through to 23. Now, let's look at the collapsed ministries, and we're talking about the Information Ministry, the Railway Ministry, Sanitation, Chieftaincy, National Security Ministry, Public Enterprises, and Parliamentary Affairs. Of course, many are questioning really why the Information Ministry has been collapsed, and we are yet to find out, of course. And so we are looking at the merged ministries right now, which ministries have been joined together. The Chieftaincy Ministry has been joined or merged with the Local Government Ministry to form the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy, and Religious Affairs as of now. We're also looking at the Works Ministry being merged with the Water Resources to form the Ministry of Works, Housing, and Water Resources. Those are 2 merged ministries. And now let's look at the new ministries that have been formed. And sports has been separated from youth to form the Ministry of Sports and Recreation and the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. And so basically, these are the new ministries that have been created. We're going to go to Zoom now and speak to our presidential correspondent, and he's going to give us some details as regards to the restructuring that has just happening by John Dramani Mahama and the presidential office. Komla, good afternoon. What more do we know about this restructuring?
Well, what we can say is to the effect that the promises made by the president on the campaign trail, mind you, he held extensive consultations with the public and stakeholders during the Building Ghana tour right before the campaign. And these agreements or suggestions were made to him. Largely, the indication we get is to the effect that the very things that he did consultations on are the things he's going to be implementing. These are not things really out of the head of just few individuals he had to group or put in a room, but these things were largely agreed on by the extensive consultations he made during the Building Ghana tour and also on the campaign trail. And so the insistence from the office of the president is to the effect that his ministers will not be more than 60. In fact, he makes the point, or he reiterated that point even yesterday at the National Thanksgiving in the prayer session held at the National Mosque, indicating that his commitment would be to the promises he made to the people. The promises could equally be taken as assurances, and he will strictly adhere to that. And so by the 14th day, which we've already started counting him down on, he would be able to put out his entire ministerial team, speaking with you right from now.
Right now, Komla, we know that vetting is slated for Monday for the first 3 nominees that he made. When can we expect the next batch of appointments, especially when many governance experts are looking forward to him to prioritize some specific ministries, specifically the education ministry?
Well, the insistence as well of the office of the president also is to the effect that yes, he has 14 days to which he promised the people of this country that he would put out his full the full complement of his list. But as Parliament is on a break till I think somewhere on the 23rd of this month, the executive secretary to the president gives me the assurance that he will stick to the 14 days. And so between now till the 14th, Parliament would be officially communicated to on his full complement of the ministers. That's the 60 to which he is not going. He's not going to go beyond. He will stick strictly to the 60 ministers, and that he intends to hit the ground. Already, indications have been really out there that he's already running, and so he needs to keep the pace. That's what the handlers, especially from his executive secretary, who tells me that the president will stick to the 14 days and will not give any excuse whatsoever for it.
Doesn't mean that through sticking to that 60 ministers, there might be no deputies for some of these ministries?
Of course, the consideration of the 60 has to do with regional ministers who are 16, and also the new ministries from 30 to 23 that have been created. Of course, ministries like finance, you definitely will need deputies. But for some other ministries, they are likely not to have deputies at all. But we are yet to get a clearer indication as to which ministries will be having the deputies. I equally get the sense that possibly regional ministers will not have deputies, and so they are going to maintain the 16. And then if you come to the other ministries, then that one inclusive would make it the 60, as His Excellency the President has intimated.
Right, many thanks for your time. That's presidential correspondent Komla Kluche bringing us details as regards to the ministries that have been reduced from 30 to 23. But let's head to the phone lines now. Dr. Frederick Oju, who is a governance expert. He joins us with his thoughts on this matter. Doctor, good afternoon. Have you seen the list, and does it meet your expectations?
Well, I think it's a very good step that the president has taken. And indeed, the reduction of the ministries is in line with the pledge to use only 60 ministers for that matter. So I think it is a very good point, a good start the president has begun with. And I do hope that he can go ahead and complete his list up.
Right now, the president, John Dramani Mahama, while on his campaign train, promised to reduce the ministers to 60. Now, the ministries have been reduced or cut down from 30 to 23, with some being merged. Do you think that he could have cut down the ministries further so that, it could meet that 60 number of ministers and include deputies as well? And if so, which ones do you think could have been merged further?
Sincerely speaking, he has got his vision. So it is most unfair for anyone to attempt to indicate to him how he should merge the ministry. I am only ready to hold him to the promise he made concerning having 60 ministers. And if within that number, he's chosen to merge and align some of the ministries to this point that he's going to operate 23 ministries. I am very comfortable with that, and I think it is within the pledge he's made. And I will not go as far as critiquing the ministries he's named for now. I mean, he has got his manifesto pledge for that as a country, and this is how he wants to go about it. He promised us 60 ministers. This singular action is indicating that he is seeking to abide by the pledge he's made concerning the number of ministers. So I am very comfortable with what has happened so far. And for now, I would plead that we give him the opportunity to name his ministers and see how they are going to undertake the business of government.
Right. Now, lastly, before you go, we earlier had the conversation with a presidential correspondent as to which ministries may not have probable deputies. If that's the case, if the president will go that way, which ministries do you think should, forego the deputy angle? Right, it seems we might have lost Dr. Frederick Oju there. But of course, we have been speaking to him on his thoughts about the mergers of some ministries, as well as the issues on the number of ministries that have been reduced from 30 through to 23. And if you can see, we have the collapsed ministries being the information ministry, the railway ministry, sanitation, chieftaincy, national security ministry, public enterprises, and parliamentary affairs. Well, Dr. Oju has joined us once again. Doctor, if you can hear me, I was earlier asking about the issue of deputies not being appointed for some ministries. If we have to stick to the 60, the number of 60 ministers as the president has promised, which ministries do you think should not have deputies if the president should stick to his lean government?
You're asking which ministries may not have deputies?
Exactly so.
Oh, wow. That is also going to be a bit of a difficulty. Of course, there are certain ministries that you realize they do have quite a number of portfolios, and they cover different entities, some of them diverse. You look at the Ministry of Finance. I would hope the Ministry of Finance may have to have at least a deputy.
Right.
If not two. But, I mean, one deputy might be helpful. If you look at a ministry like Ministry of Education, that sector is quite broad. It covers virtually every nook and cranny of the country. And education, I would be happy for education to have a deputy. Ministry of Agriculture, I would hope can have a deputy. But even I can say that if we have a ministry for fisheries and aquaculture, yes, I'm not saying it is not too broad, but it's not as broad as the agric. I mean, comparatively, not as broad as education.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe those may inform how the president might decide. I mean, I'm being very careful here. I can't prescribe for the president.
I understand.
These might inform how the president might choose to name a deputy for a particular ministry or not. I mean, if you look at a ministry for tourism, ministry for tourism, I do concede tourism is an important area that we need to work very hard at. I'm torn whether we should have a deputy for that particular ministry.
Right.
I won't place it as I say agric or education.
Many thanks for your time. Glad you could speak to us. Dr. Frederick Oju is a governance expert. He's been sharing his thoughts on the number of ministries that have been reduced and whether or not we're going to have deputies in some of these ministries in order for the President, John Dramani Mahama, to maintain lean government as he has promised. But we have more stories, right, Godwin?
We will be heading to Parliament soon where the orientation is happening. But before that, it is emerging that government is yet to formally receive confirmation from the West African Gas Pipeline Company on the decision to extend its plant's maintenance. As you may be aware, the nation is racing against time to avert a possible power crisis due to inadequate availability of fuel for thermal plants. A technical team led by the Chief Staff urged WAPCO to postpone its maintenance, which was to commence on January 20. Member of Government Energy Technical Team, Edward Bauer, has been providing an update.
So if you take 14 days,
the crude is coming and immediately you have to treat it for this.
Yes. So you take the 2 weeks plus say I'm looking at the minimum. So that's about 30-something days. And meanwhile, from January 7th or January 8th that we entered into the office and saw what was happening to the date that they have given, that 20th of January, it's just 12, 11 days that we had.
Yeah.
So time is actually not on our side. Now we had a discussion, and I'm just stating the facts as they are.
Yes, please do.
I saw that media houses had said that WAPCO had given us an opportunity to extend the period.
Yes, that was what was reported.
We flirted around that idea with the representative of WAPCO in that meeting, and look whether there was a possibility of extending the distance. Then they said, look, maintenance. Then it's okay. They could move it to around February 3, but they still have to talk to their vendors because they are coming to do the maintenance, and so they have to talk to them. Because sometimes, if you move resources and other things to come and start something, and you say suddenly you want to change it, it's a cost because you are keeping it. That's also a cost and other things. Yeah. So they are talking to their vendors to see what happens. As at Friday, which was the close of business yesterday, we had not actually gotten a formal letter to them saying that they were moving the date to.
Let's extend the conversation a little bit further. Dr. Yusuf Sulemana is an energy analyst. Doc, thank you so much for your time. You have monitored the space and the recent issues with WAPCO. What's your position regarding this?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Godwin and Judith, and to your cherished viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Thank you for having me. Indeed, we are not surprised that we are at this point. Within this platform, we've discussed this severally. And if you look at our power sector, it's not that we don't know the issues. It's just that I'm sure it's because of poor planning that has brought us to where we are. I've mentioned that we're always sitting on tenterhooks. And the reason being that there are 3 critical areas which are the pain areas within the power sector that we know, but we fail to do something substantial or something, proactively that could have solved that. Number 1 is the WAPCO. Number 2 is the IPPs, and then number 3 is Ghana Gas. These 3 areas, I've mentioned that if there's any hitch or glitch with respect to any of those points, we're going to have erratic power supply. And this is just one of them, WAPCO. So in this case, WAPCO is just a carrier of the gas, that comes to our utility points. And they're going to go for maintenance. It means that we don't have any proactive planning, put other mitigations or contingency measures in place. Even though these are all firefighting means that we've always been put ourselves through, but we've always suggested that there are other means that we can, embark upon so that we'll gravitate beyond this kind of firefighting mode. But even the firefighting mode, Godwin, we are not best at it. This is a case that we just woke up and we are told that we don't have fuel even to run, had the spare, those power plants that can run on liquid fuel. We don't even have fuel to run that. That's quite unfortunate. Though I've not been, a supporter of that much of liquid fuel because of the huge amount of gas we have within our shore. But even that's an emergency. We've not been able to do that. So it's unfortunate. We need to take proactive steps to be able to salvage ourselves from this crisis. I don't think the populace deserve that we put them to do so. And I'm just hoping that the negotiation, the rescheduling could be done, because I'm told that this is preventive maintenance. Sorry, it's a preventive maintenance. It's not a corrective one, but still, it is very important. And I understand them. Those who have been in the industry know that delayed maintenance could land you into something even far worse than what we have now. So yes, I urge that if there's a possibility to reschedule that would be best, so that this current administration can resettle and see their way through. Otherwise, it could be a very big problem to cough out over $90 million just within a month, just to get liquid-based fuel to be able to make up our generation demand. But it's poor planning that has brought us to this level, Godwin.
Right, that's quite worrying to know. But we are aware that currently ECG transmission losses is over 40%. From what you said, what measures in the interim can be adopted by the incoming energy minister?
Yeah, so that's a good one. So if you look at a couple of things that we can do, and one of the areas is just ECG. ECG is one of the big points, one of the points that we lose a lot. And I've always mentioned that if you don't get ECG right, the transmission and generation, we're going to struggle. And fortunately, I've always advocated that we need to inject some bit of efficiency into ECG. ECG need two things, capital injection and efficiency. And I think they can go along with, these two things can be combined. I've heard the president talked about going back to reactivate the Millennium, deal, Millennium Challenge, deal that was on the table, famously called the PDS deal, that got flawed and was revoked. If that can be reactivated, I think that will solve these two problems that I'm talking about. Beyond that, we just, even without any capital injection, if we put our ass together and become very efficient and minimize the losses, because no business can survive with over more than 30% losses, as
Absolutely.
we have now, both technical and then the commercial losses. So
right.
Yes, if we can privatization would be the way to go actually, to inject efficiency and some bit of fresh capital to be able to rejuvenate and revitalize ECG to be able to meet their core mandates.
Right. Thank you so much for allowing us understand this better. Dr. Yusuf Suleimana is an energy analyst. If you are unfamiliar with all the talk about a possible energy crisis, my colleague Judith Brown has been explaining further. Take a look.
The energy sector, I know they will be doing so coming, so respect it.
A prophecy or a carefully calculated attempt. The sudden revelation of a looming energy crisis just hours after the new government took office has left many questioning the motives behind it. And this viral video of the MPP Deputy Communications Director, Ernest Owusu-Bempah, just
Okay, abusuya wene ensema ekoso ewo political highway. So John Dramani Mahama NHS and then a full list of ministries abeto abonse just 30 ministries no ateso aye 23 no and aye the brem ya beda masesa mo jepene kokoti sa audio no e de MI POG Media so beda masesa